Okay, we're up to Tes Zayin Amid Aleph. We're discussing the 7 Taniyos that would follow the 6, and the Tefillas they said 24 total, 18 plus 6, and the 6 were Zechrein Shayf, 3 prakim from Tehillim, each one with their own chasima. Rabbi Yehuda disagreed, and Yehuda said also you said 6 prakim of Tehillim. You did not say Zechronis v'Shofros. The Gemara wants to know why. So we're up to 2 lines from the bottom on Tes Zayin Amid Beis. Amrav Ada Dibin Yafo came from the town of Yafo. My time of Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason, Rabbi Yehuda, that you don't say Zechronis v'Shofros? Fishein Omrim Zechronis v'Shofros Ella b'Rosh Hashanah u'b'Yovlos. You only say Zechronis v'Shofros Ella b'Rosh Hashanah u'b'Yovlos. We saw in Masech the Rosh Hashanah. Right, in the Mishnah, the only difference is that on Yovel, the Indian shofar is and the Indian tefillah is the same as Rosh Hashanah. In fact, we learned that in Gezerah Shavah. We learned that from Yovel. You use a shofar in the first place. We machadesh that Rosh Hashanah. Believe it or not, this is Yom Trua. It doesn't say a shofar. The source for a shofar was what? Was in fact Yovel. So therefore, they said Zechronis v'Shofros. They said by Rosh Hashanah Yovel. And Ubishas Milchama, Rashi brings a pasuk. He says he doesn't understand why you say brachas, and he mentions Malchuyos as well. Bishas, yes, we never mentioned Malchuyos. So Rashi, if you look at the first little thin line, right, Rashi says, "V'lo yadina mino isparish the Oma brachas upsuke Malchuyos Zechronis v'Shofros Bishas Milchama." He doesn't know where it's stated that Bishas Milchama you will be mentioning psukim of Zechronis v'Shofros, and he adds Malchuyos. Al Rishonu Oimer Mishon as Avram. So again, in the parsha we said Avram Avinu. We said Shemeya by the lashon Shemeya Tefillah by Shmuel and lashon of Tza'aka by Eliyahu and Har Carmel. That is in our Mishnah. The Brisa switches it around. Tana Yesh Machlifin. Not to say Shemeya by Eliyahu, but to say Tzedaka leEliyahu. The lashon of crying out. Tefillah l'Shmuel, instead of Tza'aka l'Shmuel, they said Tefillah l'Shmuel. Now, Bishlei Megabi Shmuel, you're interchangeable because it says both the Shonos. Ksiv Beit Tefillah, Uksiv Beit Tza'aka. So it's possible to have the Mishnah, possible to have the Brisa. Elagabi Eliyahu, Tefillah Ksiv, Tza'aka like Ksiv. It doesn't say Tefillah, it says Tefillah. It doesn't say Tza'aka. So how can the Brisa possibly say we say Tefillah by Eliyahu? And that my answer is the pasuk that was the opening of the bracha was Anenu Hashem Anenu, the double lashon of Hashem Anenu Hashem. Here, listen to me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Answer me, Hashem, answer me. That double lashon is a lashon of tza'aka, of crying out, and therefore you could say the lashon of tza'aka by Eliyahu. Al Ashishasu Oime Mishanes Yaina, and on the Shvias they said what? Oime Mishanes David and Shlomo. Yona Basa David Shlomo Have. Yonah was, we began with Avram, we worked our way down chronologically, it made sense. The last one is David and Shlomo, and the 6th one is Yonah. Yonah was after David and Shlomo. So says the Gemara, my time Magdim Le Beresha. What's the reason we're Magdim and bring first Yonah, who was latter before Shlomo and David and Shlomo? And the last of the 6 brachas, and the last chasima is the lashon of merachem al haaretz. And Rashi brings that David was in Eretz Yisrael and Shlomo by the base of Mikdash. So therefore, since you want to say merachem al haaretz, it's appropriate to associate it with David and Shlomo rather than Yonah. Okay, that's the reason why it's out of order. Tana mishum sumchus amru, a different chasima. Instead of saying merachem al haaretz, the last chasima of the 6 brachas is Baruch Mashbel Ramim, blesses the one who lowers those who are high. People are haughty, which possibly would cause what? The rain to stop. Gaiva might cause the rain to stop. And therefore we say Baruch the one, Mashbel Harim, rather than Merachim al Haaretz. Okay, we know this already, but you know what? It's always good to go over it. The Kahanim, there were 24 Mishmarim. And basically, since the 50 weeks in a year, so basically they worked twice a year. Every mishma had its own week that it worked, and every mishma was divided up into different batei avos. And each batei av We saw machlokes whether there were 6, which was I always said. Rashi in this Masechta says there was 7. We said 6. They worked each day of the week, and all of them worked together on Shabbos. If there were 7, each one worked on this specific day, and not Shabbos. Only the one on Shabbos worked Shabbos. We said, and even but the others did not all work. We saw in Masechta Yuma they had different payasais. We had the different lotteries, right, to sticking at your fingers and being counted which avodah you would do. So. In order to do the avoid, there's certain many halachas that are, 2 of them in particular is you can't drink wine and you can't let your hair grow. They have to have the hair done. In order to be a kohen, right? To be a kohen, you have to be groomed, well groomed, right? What? Okay, that's a good kasha. It was such a good question. We asked it in Masechta Eruvin, right? We said that we asked the kasha, you should be able to drink on certain days, like Shabbos and Yontif. Shabbos and Yontif, right? Shabbos and Yontif, you should be able to, so we said, we gave a teretz from the Turi Even. We said there's a difference between the Chishna and Itai. That in other words, if it comes in the right time, it's going to come in Shabbos and Yontif. But the Chishna, if we can bring it earlier, then it'll come earlier. That's the teretz we gave. Very good, guys. Good. Having nachas. Well, okay. So now, the Mishnah had mentioned that the 3 taniyos we had machlokes, but actually they would fast half a day, and based Av, the first 3 they wouldn't fast at all. They wouldn't fast at all because they have to work. Tanu Rabbanan, the Bryce elaborates. Why would Anshe Mishma, the Mishnah had said, permitted to drink wine at night? Not during the day. After all, they're not working. Only the Batei Av is working, guys. Not the Mishmar. Only the Batei Av is working. Right? Shema tichbar avoida al anshe beisav. The concern is perhaps that the workload will be too much on the Beisav. Now the anshe Mishmar members will have to come to work, go to work. And they would come and help them. So obviously they have to be in a state of preparation. And to shtuya yayin, not only is he mechuyev misa b'dei shemayim, but it's mechalul avoida. If you shtuya yayin, as we're going to see. Now, mifnei ma'om anshe beis av loy b'yom v'loy b'layla. And why can't anshe beis av not drink wine day or night? Says because they're working the whole time. We mentioned at night, guys, right? They would go ahead and be busy burning the fats and murim and the limbs. And if any poikakin jumped off the mizbeach, they put it back. Anything turning over a masla, you're going to see in Zvachim, you turn it over, you chayiv misa. It's an avoida. Any kohen that recognizes his avoida is mishmar. In other words, he knows which week they worked, and which day of the week he worked. In other words, you ever drink that day? This is your uncle said, actually, you ever drink wine? So you know the mishma which week they work, but you don't know which day. Then and mat the idea bati avosav kavuyin sham also lishtas yain kolaisa Shabbos. You won't be able to drink that whole week, right? Ain't a makim mishmeres and mishmeres based up. You don't know anything. The idea shabati avosav kavuyin sham also lishtas yain kolaisa. Then you won't be able to drink the whole year. So the chayra Rabbi says no. I'm Rani. Also, forget about the year. They should never be able to drink wine. But don't leave yet. What should I do? That it's takana is the kilkel, meaning that the base of Migdash is destroyed, and we're not chayish that immediately it's going to be rebuilt. We're not chayish immediately it's going to be rebuilt, and therefore the kohen can go ahead and drink wine. Now, there's a Taisus Yushalmi that says you can drink wine with a meal because it's not mishtaka. You can drink wine with a meal because it's not mishtaka. Here we're speaking about the kohen who's going to drink wine alone, but drinking wine with a meal is not mishtaka. We find many times you drink wine with a meal and you get a bit happy. So Shumit Simulach suggests maybe Teva has changed. Maybe Teva has changed. We saw a Mishnah. We saw the famous Taisus in Ayin Zion about that shadim and changes of different things.
Well, tolerance level before was much higher because the wine was much stronger wine.
Yeah, I don't know if they. Who knows?
So they drank all day.
They drank, though.
So they drank all day.
It was common. They were used to drinking. Yeah, but they were used to drinking. They were accustomed to drinking. They didn't have water. The water wasn't potable. Whatever they, really, they didn't have water. They used to drink wine.
What's the chazaka? You say it's a chazaka that the base of it.
Not chazaka, but not chayish that heri yibana. Not chayish that that's it's.
Isn't that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah, but again, we did say Gemara chayish that next year you're going to be built, and the year before we're going to be concerned that maybe we didn't say that the Omer again, but again that's going on a whole year. But in other words, maybe for a whole year we're chayish, but for the next day, that you shouldn't be able to drink the whole year. We're not chayish. It's mamish the next day, every day. But no, we can see the Rabban are chayish. Okay. Anyway, Rabbi. Now bisman hazeh, what the kahanim? How can they drink wine? Who do they drink wine? Says the Gemara Rebbe. They drink wine like Rebbe. And there's this Semech on Rebbe that we don't say. We're up to the 2 dots on Yud Zayin Amid Aleph, where the lines get wide about 6 lines down. There's 2 dots at the end of the line. Anshe Mishma of Anshe Maimid. Now the Anshe Maimid are the Yisraelim who would represent Klal Yisrael b'shas the shchitas of the Tamid. Asurim l'sapir l'chabes. They're also to go ahead and take a haircut and to wash their clothing. But on Thursday they're permitted if they cover the Shabbos. My timer, what's the reason? In other words, I would think that they should be permitted to be as well groomed as possible, right? You would think that you're going to the Beis Hamikdash, it's also take a haircut and also wash your clothing. It's your time of the week, right? It should be like hypothetically, let's say a person that takes a haircut before Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah, he doesn't like taking haircuts before Rosh Hashanah. He likes to look, usually takes a haircut. Hypothetically, we know such a person. Hypothetically. So Amar Rabbi Baruch Chana says Rabbi Baruch Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kedei Shlo Mishmaroisam Kashem Menavram. In other words, they shouldn't go in with them in novel. In other words, if you know you won't be able to take a haircut, during that week, you're going to take beforehand. So in other words, it's gufa that you want them to be well groomed that you don't allow it. Guys, the same thing with chalamoid. Why can't you take a chalamoid in order to ensure you're going to enter the moed right in the state? The only one who could take a haircut is a person, right? The people came out of prison. The halakha that person who couldn't possibly done it beforehand. Right? Again, but okay, very good. Torah bottom. Just digressing to discuss haircuts. Ari, you're going to be happy that you're not a king. Melech mistapim b'chol yain. King takes the haircut every day. Every day. Kohen gadol me'erev Shabbos erev Shabbos, once a week, erev Shabbos. Kohen hedget achas l'shleishim yom, once every 30 days. Going over the braysta. Melech mistapim b'chol yain. Melech takes the haircut every day. My time, what's the reason? Amar Rav Arbar Sabda Makra Melech b'yofiv techzen einecha. A melech in his beauty, your eye should gaze upon. A melech is supposed to be always in right, look a certain way, and therefore every day he has to be well groomed. Kohen gadol me'erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos, my timer. Amar Shmuel Yitzchak hoyel mishmeres mischatches kohen mishmeres mischatches. Every Shabbos, the old mishmer went out and the new mishmer came in. So the Kohen Gadol, they have to see the Kohen Gadol like he should look like Kohen Gadol. So therefore, once a week, he took a haircut to ensure Erev Shabbos that when the Mishra came in, they would see him out in his glory. Kohen Hedjit achas l'shleishim yoyim. A regular kohen takes a haircut once every 30 days. Minalan. Asya pera minasa. We learn a gezer shava from Nazir. Now, since the Nazir is every 30 days, so a kohen's every 30 days. It says in Yecheskel v'roisham lo yigalechu, and they're here. They shouldn't shave. Upera lo yishalechu, and they shouldn't let the hair grow. Uksiv hasam. Kodeshia gadol pera sarosho. It says by a Nazir, Kodeshia gadol pera sarosho. Malahan shleishim, just like over there, shleishim yoim, afkan shleishim yoim. As we're going to see in a second, it says Kodesh yiyah and gematria is 30 days. Stam Nasir is the Gufa, the Nos of Gufa Minala. And how do you know Nos is every 30 days that you clean out Kohen from the Nasir? Amar of Masno, Stam Nasir, Shlesh Yoim Minalan, Amakra, Yiyah Begamashia Tilson Have. So therefore, Kodesh, how long should he be Kodesh for? Yiyah for 30 days. Should be Kodesh for 30 days. That's what Masnas did. So, and we learn out from Kohen from that. So a Kohen takes every 30 days. Maybe you shouldn't go Edward and even up to 30 days. In other words, why do you say that it means you can't take a haircut up to 30 days is okay, but maybe it means you cannot take a haircut, like you shouldn't take a haircut at all. So if it would say do not let the pera grow, the yishalechu, and then pera means an existing hair. So it says, if it would say lo yishalechu, do not let grow, pera, you'd be right. You don't let it at all. But Hashtavar says, say, dichsiv, u pera lo yishalechu, pera meaning an existing pera, lo yishalechu, you should not let grow. Pera lahavi pera u pera lo yishalechu, pera lahavi shluchehu l'shluchar. In other words, you shouldn't let the pera grow beyond 30 days. I feel in the nami. In this manazeh, a kohen also should go ahead and have to take a haircut every 30 days, right? A kohen should have to take a haircut every 30 days. And we compare a kohen with his hair vis-a-vis a kohen regarding the halacha of drinking wine. Mashtu yayim bisman bia hu da'as. It's only in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Shalei bisman bia, but not in the time of Beis Hamikdash Shari. Avhacha. So too over here, bisman abayis, the kohen has to take every 30 days. Shalei bisman abayis, the kohen does not have to take 30 days. I've Tanya Rabbi Omer ani kahanim asurim lishlos yayin la'olam. Avama ese shetekanto kilkaltoi. So Rabbi guys permits you to drink wine, correct? Okay. Good. Mashma, the one who argues on Rebbe, says you can't drink wine. Even what? Bisman hazeh. Guys, Fred Gemara Kasha, guys, let's get the Kasha straight. Fred Gemara Kasha, a kohen should have to take a haircut every 30 days. And for the Gemara, it's similar to Shtuei Yayin. Just like Shtuei Yayin is only in vogue when the Beis Hamikdash is in existence, so too this halacha of taking a haircut every 30 days is only in vogue when the Beis Hamikdash is in existence. For the Gemara, this thing of drinking wine, bisman hazeh, is only according to Rebbe. Only according to Rebbe did a kohen drink wine. According to the Chacham, a kohen couldn't drink wine. If that's the case, if he couldn't drink wine, he should have to take a haircut every 30 days. Says that's the Gemara's kasha. Avamaya says she decanto kilkalto to takon is that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. From Rabbi, Kaman Shasi in the Kani Chamra. Who did the Kahanim drink bisman hazeh on the days? Kirebi, they drink like Rebbe. Mechlal, we can infer the Rabbanon Asrei. The Rabbanon says it's asa. My time, why did Rabbanon hold asa? Meheru Yibana Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt. But Ubeinin Koyin a royal avoida, and you need a koyin that's royal avoida. The leka, and what? And you won't have. So, in other words, you just like Indian wine, you can't drink because the Beis Hamikdash, like the one who argues on Rebbe, because the Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt, and you're going to have a kahanim that is shika. So too, you have to have kahanim with their hair cut in order to go ahead wide and do the avodah.
Easy to take a haircut and so forth.
Fred, for the Gemara, hacha efsha de mistaper v'ayil. By a haircut, it's possible to take a haircut and go work. Fred the Gemara, hachi shtuye nami efsha de goni poor to let him sleep a little bit v'ayil and go to work. And how do we know sleeping takes care of getting a little tipsy? Kidarami bar Abba, the Oma Rami bar Abba, derech mil, walking a mill, v'shena kolshu, and a little sleep. Mafigin esayayin assuages what the effect of wine. So l'chayra, why can't, according to the Chachamim, a kohen drink bisman hazeh? You're telling me you could take a haircut because why? Because that you could do. So in other words, there's a ticket, grow your hair because if you need it, you can cut your hair. Drink wine also. If you need it, you go ahead. You have an eitzah. Go ahead, Wad, and slough it off a little bit. And for the Gemara, no, it's not a good difference. Lav mi itmar Allah. Do we not learn concerning this din of Rami bar Abba? Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav bar Avua, Shanu, that what? That a little sleep or walking takes off the edge. That's only if you drank a revius, which is again usually is probably not enough to really get your shikah. Al shasa yosin revius kol shekain. If you're going to go ahead and take a walk, shederech matri dasai, the derech will go ahead right and make you more drunk. The shena mashkarta and shena will go ahead and make you drunk. So we have a teretz. That's a kasha. Why bisman hazeh does a kohen can't drink wine? And what's the difference between drinking wine and taking a haircut? Haircut you can do if the base of English is what is redone, and shtei yayin you may not be able to go ahead and get rid of the effect of the alcohol before you do the avodah. Yeah.
But we have a bigger problem with Tuma.
Freg Taisus. Second Taisus. The Indian Kahana Maruyam Lavoida Leka, them Taima, below Yayin Nami Asurim Bavoida, the Tami Mason Ninu, but Sricha Zah Gimel Vizayan. But my Osale in other words, guys, mashma that what? Yeah, what? So it's mashma that what? How can you do the avodah? Forget the drunkenness. You're gonna be tummy. You're gonna have to have the paraduma sprinkle on you day 3 and 7.
But that's not all avodah.
Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. It's Thomas Hutchubitz.
But only kavanas.
What are you talking about? How do you go into the base of Migdash? Of course it's mutter. Yeah, what? That's Taisus Teretz. That Thomas Hutchubitz. Hutra. Yeah, again, it's good kasha. That is teretz. Right, but they're musa not to get kam tummy. They're ever it's tummy mace. Bisman has that. But there's a special halacha they have to be musa. They can't go into the basic forest. Still, you can't. If it's your tummy, you say, okay, I'm tummy. I'll continue to be tummy. You can't do that. But again, that's the answer to your kasha. In other words, if the only concern was tuma, we have a heta for that. But we don't have a head to what for drunkenness. We don't have, it's a nice look.
But the hutra b'tziva, not everyone being drunk.
No, not everyone being drunk. Okay, so that's the first teretz. Again, we're looking for a chilik. Guys, we're looking for a chilik between what? Between hair cutting and being drunk. Being drunk, you can't get rid of that quickly, and based on Midrash is going to be rebuilt. You're going to have to go ahead and do the avodah. Mashenkin taking a haircut, you'll be able to go ahead and take a haircut. Rav Ashi offers the second teretz. Rav Ashi Amar, Shtuya Yayin the Machli Avoida goes with Rabbanim. Perui Roish the Loy Machli Avoida goes with Rabbanim. In other words, a kohen's not supposed to do the avodah when he's drunk. He's not supposed to do the avodah when he has his clothing's ripped. He's not supposed to do the avodah when his hair. The Allah is about the kohen. However, there are distinctions. The Shtuya Yayin, if he does the avodah, it's not avodah. If he does the zrika, the carbon's ruined. It's not an avodah. It's ruined, right? So on the other hand, if he does the avodah when pruei roish, good. It's a problem for him, but the avodah is still good. So Memela, Rav Ashi says, you want to know the chilik? By shtuya yayin, where it's so severe, it's mechal avodah. The chacham regoiza, don't drink. However, by pruei roish, going your hair, since it's not good, you're not allowed to do the avodah. But since if you did do it, the avodah would still be chal, they didn't feel it necessary to make such a gzeira. So two terutzim. The first teretz is that you can take care of a haircut, you can't take care of drunkenness quick enough. Second teretz that it's more severe shtuyayin because it's mechal the avodah rather than what and pruei roish is not mechal avodah. Now, on that we're going to question, guys. Is it true that pruei roish is not mechal avodah? The Meretz Ken Zayin, I'll prove to you that if the kohen does the avodah with his hair intact, too much hair, then what? It is mechal avodah. Where do you see that from? Meisavei. The elu shehein b'misa. This is speaking in Sanhedrin. It's discussing these are chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. Shtuya yayin. A kohen does the avodah in shtuya yayin. Upurei roish. And someone does the avodah when he didn't take beyond 30 days. Good. Now the half a mean of the Gemara, guys, if it's severe enough to be mechuyev misa, it's also severe enough to be mechal the avodah. And then Rav Ashi doesn't have his distinction between purei roish and man and shtuya yayin. Oh, where do you see this? Shtuya yayin behedya ksiv. Shtuya yayin behedya is written in Vayikra Yud pasuk. Yeah, I got one. Vaydaber Hashem Moshe v'Aaron Leima yayin v'shecha al taste. Don't drink yayin v'shecha. Atu v'nech itach b'vayachem eloi moyed. V'leisamusu chukason dorasechem v'leisamusu. Lest you die. So it says behedya mefurish awad. If you go ahead wad and do the avodah when you are shtrei yayin, right? Then what you mechuyev misa b'dei shemayim. Good. So therefore it says openly. But pruei roish minalon, guys. Where do you know that just because you do the avodah when you have your hair longer than 30 days, that you mechuyev misa b'dei shemayim? How do you know that? It says the same pasuk in Yecheskel that we quoted on the Amud Aleph. V'roisham lo yigalechu uperu lo yishalechu. Uksiv basrei in that pasuk in Yecheskel v'yayin lo yishtoi kol koyin b'boyim alachotz apnimius, and therefore this creates a relationship between purei roish and shtei yayin. V'skuye purei roish to shtei yayin. Ma shtei yayin b'misa af purei roish b'misa. Okay, so now, guys, let's go through the steps. How do we know the shtei yayin is b'misa enough in a pasuk? In Parsha Shmini, pasuk Tes, often a pasuk says that what? That don't come in and do the avoid if you're drunk. We're now coming to Yecheskel. And what are we doing in Yecheskel? We're developing a relationship between purei roish and shtei yayin. Just like shtei yayin is b'misa, as it says in Shmini, so too purei roish is b'misa, as it says the relationship in Yecheskel. Now let's go take it one step further. Umina imash shtei yayin demachla avoida af purei roish demachla avoida. So your teretz of Ashi that you want to suggest the reason they are machmir by shtei yayin is because it's machla avoida, and they're not by purei roish because it's not machla avoida. L'chayra, it's fair. L'chayra, based upon the Mishnah in Sanhedrin and through the exegesis of what a hekesh between in Yecheskel between shtei yayin and purei roish, we should learn out that purei roish is also machla avoida. Says the Gemara. Let's do the parentheses. It works for me. No, when it works for me, I do the parentheses. It says Meloi. Ki ishkish lemisa hu de ishkish, aval lachule avoida lo ishkish. In other words, we're going to go and break the rule of ein hekesh lemechza over here, because it's a funny kind of hekesh, because we're making a hekesh between, we're coming from the Torah to Nevi'im, to Kabbalah, to Yecheskel, and we're going to make the hekesh. That we can pair the hekesh between shtei yayin and purei roish is only linyan misa. In other words, purei roish b'chayiv misa, just like shtei yayin is b'chayiv misa. However, it'll be different than shtei yayin. Shtei yayin is mechalel avoida, and purei roish is not mechalel avoida, and that's why the chumar and geysa. So in answer to the kasha, what's the distinction between you want to know between purei roish and shtei yayin? We have two terutzim. One, they were geysa by shtei yayin because you can't take the effect. You may need to do that avoida. Mashenkin, a haircut, you'll be able to go ahead and snip. And the second of Ashi's teretz is that purei roish is less severe because it's not mechalel avoida, so they weren't geysa. Mashenkin shtei yayin, which was mechalel avoida. However, both purei roish and shtei yayin would mechayiv misa. They both would mechayiv misa based on, as it says in that Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Now, where did we learn this from? Where did we learn that purei roish? We learned it from Yecheskel, right? This hekesh. Without this, you would not know Yechayiv Misa, correct? A very interesting question. Now, Amar Ravina Ravashi, before Yecheskel showed up, Yecheskel lived after the Bayis Rishon, right? Before Yecheskel showed up, Man Omra, how do we know this? Now, we had this, I think we had it in Shabbos, I think we had this before. We had in other places that this idea, and the answer is always the same. They knew the halacha ben Mesorah, they only found a smach for it. I've spoken out more than once. There's a Meshech Chochma. So what's the whole concept of a smachta? What's the whole concept of a smachta? In other words, if they wanted it written in the Torah, why wasn't it written in the Torah? If we wanted it, right? Halacha must be seen as a smachta. A smachta, it's only in a smachta. It's the Rabbanan, right? What if they wanted the halacha? Why didn't Hashem write it out? Why do you mean what's that smachta? He said that Kodesh Baruch Hu knows all the Torah that's going to be mechadish throughout the centuries. He knows everything. He wanted to leave the ability for people to go ahead and use their juices, their intelligent juices, to go ahead and make the Torah the living vehicle that it is. That's timeless, the timeless Torah. And what happens when you find that a smachta? That's where Hashem would have written it had he wrote it. That's what Meshach Chachma learns. In other words, retroactively, it shows that's that's where Hashem would have written it if he didn't go ahead and allow us this intelligent juice thing to go ahead and be machadish. That's the way Meshach Chachma learns. The smachta is, that's where Hashem would have written it. So it was shown up by Yecheskel. But of course, the halach has been around all that time. You want to know? That's where it is. Okay, that's the teretz over here. Now, until Yecheskel, who told us? Amalei. So Rav Ashi said to Ravina, he answered him, 1 second. Well, Taimech, according to your way of reasoning, Hodam Rav Chisda, that Rav Chisda said, we didn't notice from Moshe's the 5 books of Moses, but we do know it from the prophets. A person who's an oral for whatever reason, a non-circumcised Jew, is not permitted into the Beis Hamikdash. No, not permitted in. Could be scared to his brother died, Machlekes Rashi and places throughout Shas. Why is he acting an oral? Because he's scared or because his brother died. Before Yecheskel, you mean an oral walked into the Beis Hamikdash? Of course not. Ela Gemara Gomer, they had a Messiah that an oral could not walk in. And Yecheskel came along and found what? A smack for the person. It's beautiful with that Meshach Chachma. Over here as well, regarding the law of Pruye Roish, that is Mechuyev Misa. Gemara Gomer, we had a Messiah that Pruye Roish Mechuyev Misa. Through a hekish touch, through a yayin. Okay, you want these parentheses. Okay, this is Daf Yomi. You got to play both sides, Okay, now we discussed Megillus Tainus, guys. We discussed Megillus Tainus. We saw it tomorrow in Shabbos, right? Megillus Tainus, all the places where you can't fast. Right now, not only can't you fast, some are so severe you can't even have a hesped. The most well-known are Chanukah and Maran and Purim. As a matter of fact, one of the most famous questions that is asked is, how come there is no Masechta Chanukah? Right? How come there is no Masechta Chanukah? There is none. There's a Gemara in Shabbos, my Chanukah, Aleza Nes Tikna, which Nes, we said the Nes of the lights, not the Nes of the victory. So there's a terrace they say to some Sefer that you've heard, which is very schwer. So Rabbi held a grudge. The Chashmonaim usurped the Malchus. The Malchus, it says, Yasa Shevim Yehuda. That in Parshas Vayechi, because Avram Avinu Yaakov gave a bracha to Yehuda. The Yasa Shevim Yehuda, the scepter of Malchus will not leave Yehuda. What happened? The Chashmonaim, who were Kahanim, they were for Shevet Levi, when Matasho and his sons, they took over the story of Hanukkah. They took the Malchus away for over 100 years. They took the Malchus away. We know that. We're going to see the Gemara in the beginning of Bavasra. Hurdis killed the last of the Chashmonaim. She killed herself, and she said, "Anyone who says that from the Chashmonaim, no, you come from an Evet, because Hurdis was an Evet." So they say Rabbi, who was from Yehuda, felt he didn't want to write Chanukah for that reason. But people have problems with that. You can imagine, right? Yeah. There's halachas. Rebbe's not holding a grudge. The midas of Rebbe was sterling. Rebbe, who. We said when Rebbe died, Batla Nova, guys. The Gemara in Sotah says, and Rebbe died, Batla Nova. So it's hard to imagine the midah that the Torah lauds him. The Gemara, Torah Shabbat lauds Rebbe that when he died, there's no more bat, no more anivas that he's going to hold a grudge. So it's very fair to say that.
It's not really a grudge. It just he was upholding the covenant of the Malchus.
Yeah, again, but it seems like very petty. It seems a little petty. It's a little petty, but Rebbe only cared about halacha. Anyway, there is a teretz. There is a teretz that most of Megillus Tainus is Chanukah. So it was unnecessary to go ahead and write it. It was unnecessary. What's the reason? It's very interesting. Most people know the halachas of Chanukah. There's you got a menorah. You got a left to right. Oil's better. I mean. So it wasn't necessary, and he said Megillus Tainus is the Megillah of Hanukkah. That to me resonates. Anyway, here's a little bit of Megillus Tainus. We'll learn a little bit today, and we'll stop. Kol haKosim Megillus Tainus loyla mispid lefonav asa la'acharav. Anything that's written in Megillus Tainus that it says the loyla mispid lefonav asa la'acharav muta. In other words, let's say the day they say this day you can't fast or you can't be maspid. The day before it's asa to be maspid. The day afterwards muta. Tanabana. All in Yumya, these are the days that you shouldn't fast And some you should not go ahead on, and even more severe, you can't say it, you can't go ahead and say a eulogy. What are they? From Rosh Chodesh Nisan until the 8th day of Nisan. From Rosh Chodesh Nisan to 8th day of Nisan, you can't go ahead and say, you can't fast and you can't say a tainus. Why? He took him to Mida, right? Because the Mida, the carbon tamid was established. Guys, Karbani Lachmili, Shayrech, Nachi Tishmru. They held the Tzedaikim, they held that you can bring the tamid from personal funds. As a matter of fact, they said it should definitely come from, it says it's Karbani Lachmili, Shay. And what's the answer? Tishmeru is Lashon of Rabbin. Not Tishmar, Tishmeru is Lashon Rabbin. So they were victorious in those days to get rid of that piece of apikursis from Klal Yisrael, and therefore those days would set as days of simcha, no tainus and no hesped. That's Rosh Chodesh until the 8th day.
7 days to convince them.
Again, this is when it happened. What happened then? From the 8th day until the end of Pesach, right? So what happened? That was the day that they established that Shavuos is the day after the first day of Pesach, not on Sunday. They held Machros HaShabbos. What does Machros HaShabbos mean? That Shavuos always has to come out on a Sunday, right? That's what they held. So we were victorious, and therefore so from Rosh Chodesh to the 8th day, that's the Tamid. From the 8th day to the end of Yontif, that's what that is. That is because of the Omer. Amar, going back over the Brisa, Mereish Yarchad Nisan Tanaya Bay, he took him to me Lo Lemispid. So Lomali Mereish Yarcha, what do you have to say from the Rosh Chodesh? Lema Mitrei Ben Nisan, the second day of Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Gufa Yontifu V'Asa. Fellas, why do you have to go ahead and say in Megillus Tainus from Rosh Chodesh? Even without Megillus Tainus, you can't be masculine and say and fast on Rosh Chodesh. Even without it. So why are you starting instituting it from Rosh Chodesh until the 8th day? Rosh Chodesh Zechalein independently has nothing to do with being successful and convincing them about the carbon tamid. Right? We said from Rosh Chodesh to Asa the day before Rosh Chodesh. In other words, why do you have to say from Rosh Chodesh, even if you, let's say the second day, guys, count from day 2, the day before is also because Rosh Chodesh. You're telling me the following. The reason why you started from Rosh Chodesh is to ask the day before Rosh Chodesh. Good? If you're worried about the day before, you can start counting from day 2 and you have no problem also. Why? Because day 2, the day before is what? It's Rosh Chodesh. So if you're worried about the day before, it's built into the system. There it is. It says, I'll tell you the difference. Rosh Chodesh the Raisahu. Rosh Chodesh the Raisahu, the Raisahu boy chizah. No one's going to come to go ahead the day before Rosh Chodesh. In other words, guys, why it's the reason we say the day before you can't? It's to give strength to the day afterwards. If we let you fast or say a hesped the day before, the day that's been instituted, you may count as fast on the day that's instituted. Rosh Chodesh you could fast the day before. Rosh Chodesh could say a hesped the day before. You know why? Because Rosh Chodesh ba'atzma is strong enough. It's the Raisa. You don't need a chizik for it to go ahead and asa the day before. Right? The Tanya Hayom ma'ela haksuvim b'Megillas Tainus. These days that are written in Megillas Tainus, lifneihem ulachreim asurim. Why? Because you may come to go ahead and be over on the day itself. However, Shabbos is Yom Tovim, Heim Asurim Lefneim Ulachreim Mutarim, and Shabbos Yom Tovim Heim Asurim Lefneim Ulachreim Mutarim. The Mut Asa Lefneim Ulachreim De Muta. U'ma Hefesh Ben Zel Lezeh Halal Devrei Torah v'Devrei Torah Ein Tzrichim Chizik Halal Devrei Seifim Tzrichim Chizik. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow on this other.